All right, we're back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and you knew this was coming, guys, with the NIL and sort of vagueness of what the rules are and where the parameters are. So let's set the table by telling you how this all started. Nick Saban was at an event for Alabama boosters, and essentially it sounded a lot like a fundraiser to me. It really did. He's telling the boosters why they need to establish this big pot of money so they can help pay and get the best recruits. And in the process of this 7.5-minute soliloquy, he says, I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, likeness. We didn't buy one player, all right? Notice the question mark at the end, as if he's asking that.
Yeah. All right, am I right?
So, obviously, Jimbo Fisher is sitting in College Station saying, wait a minute, what did he just say? He just made an allegation that we bought and paid for every single recruit in our class. Now, before Saban got to the juicy part, he had gone on and was explaining to boosters how at Texas A&M they've essentially established this bank account, this huge bank account that comes from donations from boosters that will specifically go to players for NIL deals. And then that kind of creates the salary cap, so they know how much money they have to deal with. Then they divvy that money out amongst all of their recruits. If they sign 20 kids, whether they split it equally 20 ways or they give this one a bigger chunk because he's a bigger recruit, I don't know. But the allegation was strong, and Jimbo heard this and immediately said, I need to do a news conference. I need to fire back. And he came out guns blazing. Watch.
It's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way. The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen, and it's ridiculous. But when he's not on top, some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out about a guy that a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. It's the second time we've had to do this with grown men who don't get their way and want to pout, throw a fit, and act up. Just go ask all the people who work for him. You'll know exactly what he's about. I always said this. My dad always told me this. When people show you who they are, believe them. He's showing you who he is.
First of all, have you had any contact with Nick since?
No. Oh, he's called.
You just didn't take the call?
Not going to. We're done.
And
he shows you who he is. You can call me anything you want to call me. You ain't calling me a cheat. I don't cheat and I don't lie. So I learned that when I was a kid. If you did, the old man slapped you side of the head. Maybe somebody should have slapped him. I don't mind confrontation. Lived with it my whole life. Kind of like it myself.
Anything else? Rob, then Travis?
Backing away from it wasn't the way I was raised. It's despicable for what it does for the sport. And the operations, the way things were done the other way, when the parity was there, like we said, never has been parity. Certain people never follow the rules anyway.
I gotta say, guys.
Oh, you got to give me some time on this one.
We all
I am
lots
so
to say
angry
about
about this. I know I'm so angry about this because Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney, I'm sick of hearing these old white guys complain about young black players making money, because that's part of this. They won't admit that, but that's a big part of this. I'm so sick of this nonsense. They're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to do something that's really not that important. You're coaching football. We have people saving lives. We have military men going to fight for our country. We have medical scientists trying to cure diseases and make vaccines. And these idiots are getting paid $6, $8, $10, $12 million. They're doing Aflac commercials to get more money, and they're complaining that, oh, this kid got some money to go to the school. I don't care. These kids can make whatever the hell they want.
Let me stop you real quickly. Yeah. In fairness, in the speech to the boosters, and publicly, Nick Saban has been very much on record. He's fine with these kids getting paid, and it's about time.
But he's complaining about the system.
I think what he's complaining about, if I can, because I listened to the whole Nick Saban thing. There was much more to it. What he's complaining about is the system. He said that he alleged that he broke rules.
Right, which was out of line,
So here's why that's out of line. what are the rules right
They're
now?
unknown.
And this goes back to the NCAA when they decided they were going to have this NIL.
Right.
It's the wild, wild west.
This
You've got coaches at small schools complaining about it. You've got coaches at Blue Bloods complaining about it. And you've got coaches everywhere in between complaining about it because they don't know if what was going on at Texas A&M, if what Nick alleged happened, it doesn't appear to be against NCAA
Right, so
laws
who
or
cares?
Texas
Stop
laws.
talking about it.
So I think what Jimbo is saying is
Yeah.
we need some clarification here because I listened to the whole Jimbo thing too. His main point was, aside from napalming Saban, Jimbo Fisher was saying, clean these rules up, guys. We don't know what's legal and what's not, but the way things are written now, I haven't done anything wrong.
Well, so I talked about on the very first show we did here. Here's the problem, right? The problem emanates from the money that's being raised in college sports, right? And the books are only being seen by one side here, right? And so now they try to create this workaround with the NIL deal to try to give these kids a chance, right? Which I don't have a problem with. This is a capitalistic society, right? What Saban did was pointing fingers at people, calling names. That's outside the rules here. So I think Jimbo Fisher was well within his right to respond in such a way. And then he had some extra baggage, like, by the way, since you're on that, let me hit you with this, right? Now give me your take on that, right? Now you won't hear Saban talk about that, right? See, because I tell you, it's all about the money, right? And so when you sit out here, because I listen to the major collegiate leagues out here now talking about creating this super league for football, right? Because it's only going to create the super league because it's about the money, right?
It's always about the money.
It's about the money, right?
Always.
And so the problem is this: the NCAA institutes a game plan in some of these states, and there really are no rules to it, right? And so now it is a free-for-all out here. And so now you got people. You can't blame the people for working the rules of the system. The
Nick's
system
mad
is
it's become a spending
right. The
contest
system
now.
has set this up.
Tough. He's had advantages for so many years.
Well,
I couldn't agree
he
more
left
with
Michigan.
that.
He left Michigan State and went to LSU in the middle of a contract, right?
They can do
He's
that
one
whenever
of
they
those
want.
capitalistic guy out there.
Hung players out to dry, hung families out to dry.
Yep.
Right. I sent my 18-year-old for you to take care of him, and then you go jet on him, huh?
Right.
Yep.
And so then no recourse.
They'll
So-
recruit him one day, leave for another school
Oh,
the next.
this thing is wicked out here. Yeah. It's wicked.
This is what happens when you let a small group of people at the top of the food chain
Eat all
do
the time.
what the hell they want to for 60 to 80 years. I'm tired of it, man. You know, you don't want decent wages in this country. They won't give you minimum wage. He says buying players is name. How can you buy a player? That's my name. It's my image. It's my likeness. They talk about players like they are property. He ain't upset that these kids. He upset that he ain't getting the most valuable property.
That's it.
So
That's all he cares about.
So you can say, I done won all these championships, and you got two grown men sitting up there with more money than they could ever spend in their lifetime, and their kids is busting their ass going to these crazy workouts, going to school, and then at the end of the day, you go, well, NCAA, give us some guidance. I don't want no guidance from the NCAA. I would like you to just go away.
As you said, G, the
go away.
NCAA had 60 years to give
You
them
had
guidance.
80 years to get this
They're
right.
about to go away because they were too slow to react. And then when they did react,
It's over conversation.
they just opened the floodgates.
Right.
And to your point's a great one that they're mad now. Saban's mad now because his inherent built-in advantage that he had with tradition is gone now because and he even invoked Deion Sanders. He didn't call him, he didn't say his name. In fact, nowhere did Nick Saban ever say Jimbo Fisher's name, and Jimbo Fisher never said Nick Saban's name, but we obviously knew who
said
they
it
were
without
talking about.
saying it.
Yeah.
But this is what I love about Deion Sanders being like the most real cat in the room. He also said, Saban did, and we didn't put those comments up there, but hold on that one for 1 second. I'm going to get to that still store. Hold on 1 second. Nick Saban said about Deion Sanders, well, Jackson State paid $1 million to get the top recruit. And it was true that the number one recruit was a Florida State commit, and he decided, I'm going to go play at Jackson State. Now, for Nick to say that, you better be able to prove that. And this recruit came out immediately and said, whoa, hold on. If I got $1 million, I will tell you right now, that's not true because my mom is still living in a 3-bedroom apartment with 5 kids.
He's hating.
So now Nick Saban may have said something that, if you're going to write those checks, you better be able to cash them.
Right.
And then Deion Sanders didn't care about anybody's names or feelings. He tweets, "You best believe I will address that lie Coach Saban told tomorrow." So this is the first time any of these coaches have been man enough to use the other coach's name and not just refer to the program. "I was awakened by my son," and he goes on to say how he found out about the tweet. "Travis Hunter Jr. is the player in question." He said that he gave him $1 million to play at Jackson State. "We as a people don't have to pay our people to play with our people."
Right.
Facts.
Right.
And that
Right.
is,
Right.
I'll tell you what the establishment is most worried about is right there. The historically black colleges that
you
for
walking down
years
the road.
have had no chance at
No
these
chance.
blue chip recruits.
Right.
They didn't want you in
The
there during
only,
the 50s
the only
and
reason
60s.
they're not at Howard or not at Jackson State
Or
is only
Grambling.
or because the big leagues have the TV deals.
Sure.
And if I want to
want
get
the publicity.
if I want to get to the pros,
Right.
I better be seen on that circuit. I better be seen. But I always said this: if you could get the blue chippers to go to Howard, Jackson State, Southern,
That's what
and
Deion's
run the
doing.
table
Yeah.
in the league, everyone would run to the HBCU quicker than you could get there because
listen, nowadays you can watch everything.
Well, no,
They'll find you.
just because
Yeah.
it parodies the high schools that they come from, their neighborhoods. It looks just like the living experience that they know every day,
Right,
right?
Sure.
And that is, when you go to Ohio State or go to a Michigan or go to Nebraska or go to Southern Cal,
It doesn't look like where
it doesn't
they
look
came
like
from.
that.
No.
Right? It does not look
No,
like that.
not at all.
And so Deion Sanders has really been the first one to tap into this, right? So we don't know where this thing is going. But if he can be successful here, they have a problem.
I can't wait to see what Deion does because Deion doesn't need the money. Deion has
not.
fame from 3 other careers that he can fall back on. But what's interesting to me is Deion is a hot coaching prospect. If a Division I school doesn't snatch him up instantly, they'd be crazy because he has all the cred in the world with even today's recruits. Kids know who Deion
No
is.
doubt.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they can YouTube it. But I can't wait to see if someone's going to offer him a job, a big-time job. Is Deion going to leave the structure that he's put in place at Jackson? By the way, he's been a great coach. He's done a great job at Jackson State. And he will make a phenomenal coach wherever he goes because he has that leadership, charisma, and a resume to prove it. Is he going to leave this model that he's working on at Jackson State, which could change the face of college football entirely? Or is he going to follow the money and go take the big payday at a big college? Because those offers are coming,
Yeah,
guys.
it's gonna be interesting
They're
to
coming
see.
soon.
It'll be interesting. I just think Deion Sanders was brave enough to say what he should have been saying. You've been getting championships off inner city kids for decades. What if those inner city kids just went to HBCUs now? And you guys you stockpile people at every position. There's 5 All-Americans. And guess what? You, at one point in time, you didn't even want them to transfer. And then if they could transfer, they had to sit out a year.
Yep.
And you got to tell them, well, you can't go to Florida or Tennessee or anybody we play in the next 7 years. But you guys jump up, cash checks, do what you want, yell at people. I mean, come on. Bobby Petrino got 90. To me, I say this all the time. If you're going to keep the same energy with these players that's 18 years old, you got to keep it 100 with these guys that have been doing this stuff for years. Name me one coach or general manager or any of these people that was held accountable.
You had to understand my own journey, right? So I was at Wisconsin first, and then I decided to transfer to Ohio State. So let me tell you, so when I went to Ohio State, you could not transfer within the Big Ten and keep a scholarship. So I lost the scholarship. I had to work summer jobs in the summertime. My mother took every check and paid the tuition of those summer jobs at Ohio State, and I had to sit out a year, right? So I was let me tell you something, I'm the best walk-on player ever to walk through Ohio State University ever, right?
And probably ever will,
right.
too.
And so the game was set up so that you would stay where you would,
Yes.
right? Because you can get to
They want you under their thumb.
You can get to a place and find out this is not the proper
Amen.
environment for me.
No.
I can't stay here, right? And so
You had a perfect situation where you could do that and still play.
the only thing that saved me here at Ohio, the thing that saved me, let me be honest with you, in 1983, you know what the tuition at Ohio State was for 15 credit hours?
Probably a couple, maybe 1,500, 2,000.
$500.
No kidding.
In state.
Yeah, so kids can't do that today.
Can't do that now.
Yeah,
right.
no.
So that gave my parents ability to
do it.
Say, okay, you work this job, make this money, give me those checks, and we'll pay this tuition for the year, right?
And that's not doable
And so when I went to a
today.
house, I couldn't get training table. I couldn't get anything.
No
There
cafeteria?
was nothing.
So,
no,
guys, let me ask you guys this question then. I think what we're seeing, you're seeing college football coaches melting down at the haves, at the have-nots. They're melting down everywhere. And I believe this is a product of them losing their model. They've lost their system.
They've lost control, Jay.
No,
They've lost
They
control.
lost
because
control.
the system
They
that
want
used
to control
ensure
everything.
that
Yes.
Alabama got the 20 best
Right.
kids in the country.
They lost their
is
soul.
gone.
They lost their souls.
They lost control because the money has come into play. People, the workforce now has figured out that you're making a lot of money here,
Well,
and that's the problem.
But the coaches had all the power before.
Yes,
I can change
right.
schools as much as I
No,
want.
what-
Player be
no,
damned.
Jay-
Now the players
Jay,
have more power.
What changed this scenario was the Northwestern football team. When they talk about
Unionized.
unionizing together,
Absolutely.
that changed the whole thing on its ear
Sure.
because at that point,
They won their court case.
the NCAA had to take it serious at that point because nobody was ever able to galvanize the workforce because you're all over the country.
Right.
There's no one group that can represent you.
Yeah.
And when they did that, then at that point, it was like it's a new ball game.
And they only moved on it because the legislation out of California, because they figure, well,
Right.
if USC can pay their players, we're not going to be able to compete.
Well, the Northwestern case was earlier. That was
Right.
first.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
they did was very smart. The quarterback at Northwestern was this real smart
Yeah.
guy. And he said, you know what? This is a job.
yeah.
And as
Yeah.
long as this is a job, we can unionize. So their argument to the judge was, what is a job? Well, a job is something, an obligation that you have that there is either a reward financially or a punishment structure if you don't perform these duties. And the Northwestern quarterback was like, yeah, if I don't go, I lose my scholarship. That's a pay-for-play situation. It's not cash changing hands, but there is a benefit involved. The judge listened to the case, and it was a landmark case.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of in limbo. Now the NCAA is aware that,
You got a problem.
they could unionize. If anyone brings this together, it could happen. Let us try to get in front of that train wreck, because that will completely devastate their model.
Jay, do you know how many firms would take this on? If
listen,
this
they
thing
were
would be
lining up for that
and it would be pro bono because they would get paid in the end.
Absolutely.
Right? It would be like the biggest thing ever.
Do you
And
ever
that's-
see a day where college athletes have unions just like the pros, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, everything else?
I see it coming. The more money that's involved in the game, it is a potential there, right? So this is why they come up with these little bitty spinoffs here.
Sure.
Give you a little
Try to
money here.
keep-
Give you a little
keep
money
the
here.
peasants
Give you a
happy
little money
by
here.
throwing them a
Give you a little
couple of
money here.
peanuts
Give you a
here
little
and
money
there.
here. Because people really, kids, my best years of life were in college. I wasn't ready to run to the pros yet. I still was like doing the thing down High Street.
Right.
And so
Sure.
this is, I don't want to forsake that, right? But the problem is the money is getting so the differential in money is getting so large that now it's going to force this thing to happen here.
By the way, the most important part of this conversation is Texas A&M and Alabama play on October 8th. So you'll want to put
Yeah,
that in your
that's gonna
little
be great.
phone calendar. So you want to be somewhere in front of a television set when they kick off. Because for me, I always think Ohio State and Michigan is the most anticipated regular season college football game of the year. I know there are other big games, but for me, this one will take on an Ohio State-Michigan feel to me.
Yeah.
Because this isn't fake hatred, guys. These are real bullets that are flying
After
around.
the game.
It's
Like,
gonna-
Before and
Before the
after.
game.
It's going to be like that for the foreseeable future until Saban retires. This will be a rivalry
Which, by the
game.
way, I
Yeah.
think is going to be a lot sooner than later because he doesn't like what's happened to his game.
Yeah.
And he wants to walk out where he's still on top. And I don't know that he's going to want to play in the sandbox with new rules for that much
I
longer.
think it's the young coaches that are going to succeed now.
I agree.
The young
I
coaches
agree.
are
Well,
going
that's
to
why
adjust
Dabo's
quicker.
having so much success. You said earlier, players have a 100 detector. They can tell right now
Yeah.
if you're real or fake
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second you walk in the room. And if you're fake, you don't have much of a chance with these kids today.